There is no middle class in the USA. Or at least that's where it's probably going to be eventually. And according to this Wall Street Journal article, the middle class vibe has shifted from secure to squeezed by Katherine Hamilton and Alison Slider. Even the slight price reductions at my choice grocery store that they're bragging about to the high heavens aren't just going to alleviate. But before we find out what they have to say about the middle class being less of a comfortable position than it was back in our grandparents' day, be sure to give this video a like. Comment what you think about all of this. If you think we just need to stop spending so much money on BS or whatever, let me know in the comments. Be sure to also subscribe for cultural commentary and rants from a man caught between generations. And last but certainly not least, feel free to join me at the Zillennial Nexus Point Discord. Link will be in the description below. Alright, for the American middle class, it has been a summer of cooling confidence. Consumer sentiment dropped nearly 6% in August, after trending up in June and July, according to a closely watched index from the University of Michigan. Pessimism about the job market increased, with more people surveyed saying they expect their income to decline, according to polling done by think tank The Conference Board. The middle class, generally considered to include households making roughly 53K to 161K a year, is playing an outsized role in that waning optimism. After months of tracking high-income earners' increasing confidence about the economy, households making between 50K and 100K made an abrupt about-face in June. They now more closely resemble low-income earners' gloomier views, according to surveys done by Morning Consult, a data intelligence firm. Can anyone think of anything that happened in June to send everyone thinking that way? I can't think of anything off the top of my head. There was a period of time, briefly, where the middle income consumer looked like they were being dragged up by all that was going well in the world, said John Lear, chief economist at Morning Consult. Then things fell off a cliff. Translation: the economy did very well after World War II, and that success and prosperity was an outlier and not the norm, and we are simply returning to the norm. Evidence of a squeezed middle class is mounting. Several CEOs across the dining, retail, and fashion and airline industries have said their middle class customers are increasingly strapped, even as high earners keep on buying. And there's the graph for consumer sentiment across income levels in the US. So here we are in 2024. I guess that's January, February. Okay, we want the middle class. Yeah, decline in February, March, April, May, June, July, August. Yeah, this is the daily index of consumer sentiment polls for people about 5 questions regarding personal finances and business and buying conditions. The CEOs are probably noticing fewer middle class customers because, well, if they have families, they have more that they have to buy. Tim Pool actually made a really good point about how a family of 4 actually does end up spending more money than a couple would, because the family of 4 has to buy for 4 people, while the couple only has to buy food for 2 people. And if we're being honest, there's probably some couples who are sharing an entree to cut the costs down and reduce the calorie intake. I've heard that's a thing. Walmart, which continues to dominate by offering deals to pinch consumers, like not charging the 99 cents for the X99 prices, which is how I got the Switch 2 for about $1 less after taxes. That was nice. Said middle and low income shoppers are reining in spending and putting fewer discretionary items in their carts. Advanced Auto Parts and O'Reilly Automotive both noted low to middle income customers were feeling pressured, leading some car and truck owners to cut back on non essential repairs. Discount retailer Dollar General said it's getting more business from mid tier households looking for value. Yeah, because wages don't rise with inflation. And some companies are using the tariffs as an excuse to jack up the prices. Like with all the video game consoles that have officially gone up in price 5 and 8 years after the fact, respectively, for the PS5 and Series S and X and the original Nintendo Switch. Honestly, yeah, it's not a great situation. Not as bad as food prices going up because video games are technically a luxury, but at a certain point, if you overcharge, who's going to buy? At retailer Kohl's, customers are trading down for cheaper clothes and home goods. Our lower to middle income customers remain the most challenged, Kohl's chief executive Michael Bender said. Our higher income customers have proven to be more resilient because they have more money to weather the storm. Hello, Bender! Sorry, that was a terrible impression of Biff. God, Back to the Future is such a good movie. I am seeing it when it comes out in theaters. Okay, let's just get back to the article. More Americans are turning to generic brands and stretching out perishable goods as economic concerns creep up the income ladder, Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta President Raphael Bostic said. I can speak personally to this. I generally get store brand because it's just a better value. And yes, it is cheaper and lets me stretch my budget. But it is also just good value because at a certain point, what do name brands really offer that the generic brand, that the name brands can't? Like take jalapenos. I got a jar of jalapenos for $2.50 a couple days ago. Why would I pay more for that? What exactly could a name brand do with the jalapenos to justify whatever more it costs? Or let's take the deli rotisserie chicken. Why would I spend more for name brand when, at the end of the day, chicken is chicken? Getting back to the article, folks that are low and moderate income, they don't have any extra money anymore, Bostic told an audience at a recent town hall meeting in Red Bay, Alabama, located about halfway between Birmingham and Alabama and Memphis, Tennessee. Yeah, because the prices of things are going up, except at my choice grocery store where they're bragging about the prices going down. Though I'm starting to wonder if maybe that's to hide from the fact that they had to raise prices on things. I don't know. I wasn't there. I just know that they are making a huge point about new lower prices. Pew Research defines middle class as those earning from two-thirds to double the median household income, which is currently just shy of $81,000 a year, according to federal data. Maria Delis Santiago started worrying in the spring when tariffs dominated the news. The 30-year-old beauty and fashion influencer in Brooklyn earns $60K a year from her online posts. But her paid partnership deals are getting downsized as fewer cosmetic and skincare brands spend on advertising in the face of higher tariffs. It almost feels like you have no control over what's happening right now, she said, adding that she's trading down anywhere she can to save money. Yeah, this is why I would personally avoid doing sponsored bits. I would very much prefer just direct memberships whenever I get monetized. Let's not worry about that right now. Instead of visiting the salon, Santiago is buying nail strips. She paired her weekly restaurant excursions to once or twice a month. In February, she booked a trip to Puerto Rico to see the rapper Bad Bunny in concert. By April, she decided the $3,000 trip wasn't feasible She sold the concert tickets and canceled the flights. I don't expect the economy to get any better, unfortunately, for a while, she said. Yeah, I had to wait and see how much money I got in my direct deposit. The last one before the Jaws at the Mugar Omni Theater weekend because I had to make sure that I'd have the money. Thankfully, I did, and I was able to go on that outing to Boston. But still, you have to prioritize things like groceries and such, which is why I only mostly eat vegetables and rice when I'm at home, along with the deli chicken and cheese sandwich because I can pack that up in a lunchbox with an ice pack and take it on the road if I need to. Or I'll have saved so much more money from not having to buy as much with groceries. I can afford to eat out a little bit. Not at somewhere like, say, the now closed Guy Fieri restaurant where I paid $51 for a mac and cheeseburger, fries, a beverage, and the Boston cream pie dessert, and the tip. But the $8 quarter pounder meal for something I could eat in the, what is it, Boston Common without having to haul a lunch bag around, I'll admit that was actually kind of worth it for being free from the bag. Now I'm gonna have to actually pack the sandwich more often, at least until it gets too cold out to be outside, and then if I want to keep going there, I'm gonna have to find places to sit down and eat. Hopefully, the McDonald's or Burger King or anywhere quick and easy won't, and not as expensive as a full service restaurant. Won't be too crowded. We'll see. In early June, people with incomes between 50K and 100K were feeling better about the economy than they had since before the pandemic, according to Morning Consult polling. Their optimism dropped in the following weeks, falling out of step with their wealthier counterparts, then flattened in August. The gap in confidence between high and low earners is now the widest it has been in the 7 years of tracking the data. More US consumers now say they're dialing down spending than when inflation spiked in 2022. Over 70% of people surveyed from May to July plan to tighten their budgets for items with large price increases in the years ahead, according to the University of Michigan's Economic Sentiment Survey. High earners were much more likely to keep spending as usual, Joanne Hsu, the Michigan Survey's director, said in her analysis. Executives at IHOP, McDonald's, and Denny's have said their middle class customers are on the hunt for deals, while many lower income diners are staying away altogether. Yeah, because no matter what you do to bring down the costs like that, or if you start nickel and diming people like the McDonald's I went to, charging me a nickel for a bag. Yeah, people aren't going to want to pay for that. They are going to find other solutions or they're going to make a choice. They're going to decide that it is worth the effort to pack food and bring it to go or something like that. Or they're just going to cook at home and then eat before leaving. Personally, I think it's a respectable idea, but I've talked before about how I can only manage that if I have the place to myself. At IHOP, customers are choosing cheaper menu items and buying fewer drinks. Denny's data showed more people who make between 50K and 75K are coming in for promotions like its $5 breakfast. McDonald's reported in August that it's gaining more middle class diners as they eschew pricier restaurant options, while lower income customers are showing up less frequently. That divide is expected to continue, executives told investors and analysts on a call to discuss earnings. Yeah, I think they're doing a better job with not overcharging. I mean, I think any restaurant meal that is in the single digits after your local jurisdiction's meal tax. That's a really good deal, whether it's the pizza party for one from Blaze for $8.95 before tax, or that $8 quarter pounder meal I mentioned, down from $10.69, I think it was, for it without that special discount, but that was a one-time discount from the McDonald's app. And there's also that cheaper menu they have as well, so there's that. I highly doubt most of the middle class earners are going to go for the McDonald Land meal, but I might get that another time. I don't know. Just for fun though, not because I'm going to try reliving my childhood or something with that. Wealthy Americans are helping keep swaths of the economy in good stead as they continue to buy first-class plane tickets and high-end sneakers, while more Americans are clipping coupons and cutting back on non-essentials. The company that makes on-brand running shoes, which starts at $160 a pair, raised its full-year sales outlook after its second quarter revenue jumped 32%. Crocs, which sells its classic clog for about $50, said less wealthy shoppers are paring back spending and in-person visits to the stores. There are other brands that are absolutely performing much better in this marketplace because they are focused exclusively on a high-end customer, Crocs chief executive Andrew Rees told investors on an earnings call. The low-end consumer is a consumer that we believe is most sensitive to price increases, is most nervous, and in some cases, is not leaving the house. Well, it does pretty much cost money to leave the house to some extent. Now, I managed to go out without spending any money on my first big walk around town to escape my mom's psychotic cleaning frenzy. That's because I brought snacks and the protein bar for lunch with me rather than spend to go inside anywhere. So yeah, it's technically possible. I mean, unless you want to argue time opportunity for other things I could have been doing during that time. Opportunity costs, that is. But other than that, yeah, I didn't have to spend any money on that compared to if I want to go to the Boston Common, I have to pay at least $10 for the unlimited weekend pass for the commuter rail. I mean, I think it's worth it for that because there's a lot more space. That's just me. Flights to international destinations and in premium classes are still selling out, while domestic and main cabin sales softened across airlines. Budget carriers that specialize in cheaper leisure trips like Frontier and Spirit had a tougher second quarter than carriers like Delta Airlines, which gets more revenue from higher income and business customers. United Airlines said premium cabin revenue in the most recent quarter increased 5.6%, while the economy cabin was negative. Well, I guess that's one way to show that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. Customers getting anti-wrinkle injections formulated by Avalus, a medical aesthetics company, are stretching out how frequently they get treatments and reducing the number of injection units they get. Avalus's core customer base makes 150K or less, and those are the Americans feeling the most pinched, the company said. What's unique here in this environment is the consumer that is in that sweet spot, call it 150K or less, is really feeling the effects, Chief Executive David Moatzadi said. When you parse through it, we see sort of some haves and have-nots. Yeah, the anti-wrinkle injections, I think those are probably way more frivolous than any of the other things. Like, airplane travel, you need that sometimes. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here for the video. You let me know in the comments down below what you think about all this. Be sure to also give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for cultural commentary and rants from a man caught between generations. And last but certainly not least, feel free to join me at the Zillennial Nexus Point Discord. Link will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.